And I give the call to the member for
Higgins. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I would also like to thank and acknowledge the member for Ryan for bringing this very important motion to this chamber. As we all know, the journey to parenthood for many is not as straightforward as many would hope. 1 in 6 Australian families face difficulty when trying to start a family, and it can be so challenging on relationships. And I know many in this chamber would know people who have been through the challenges of IVF. It's a cycle of hope followed by failure, followed by hope, and for some, the joy of delivering a new baby. It can be incredibly challenging on relationships, and I know of people who haven't been able to maintain their relationship through the difficulties faced when one or both are infertile, and then dealing with the consequences of the very stressful difficulties of IVF. But what I would say is there is hope for so many couples because of the many fantastic scientific discoveries that have been made around the world with regards to IVF. And many Australians turn to in vitro fertilisation, more commonly known as IVF, so that they too can have the joys of being parents. And Australians deserve this experience, Madam Deputy Speaker. I want to say a few comments about what in vitro fertilisation is. It's a process of fertilisation when an egg is combined with sperm outside of the body in vitro, which is the Latin for in glass. The process involves monitoring and stimulating a person's ovulatory process, and that requires medication and careful monitoring. And of course, sometimes I think women can feel that that is a very difficult process to go through. An egg is removed from the ovaries, and then a sperm is fertilised, and a culture is in a culture medium in a laboratory. And then after that fertilised egg, it undergoes some embryo culture for 2 to 6 days, and then is implanted into the uterus and hopefully results in a successful pregnancy. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, all this marvellous technology took years and years and decades of scientific endeavour to reach what was an incredible discovery in July 1978, with Louise Brown being the first child successfully born after her mother received IVF treatment in the UK. Now, Miss Brown was born as a result of a natural cycle IVF where no stimulation was made, but the procedure took place in Dr Kershaw's Cottage Hospital, now Dr Kershaw's Hospice in Royton in Oldham in England. Robert G. Edwards was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology in Medicine in 2010, and the physiologist had co-developed the treatment together with Patrick Steptoe and embryologist Jean Purdy. Jean Purdy was the embryologist and nurse who was the first to see Brown's embryo divide. It must have been an incredible thing to look down a microscope and for years having hoped to be able to see this natural process actually take place. Unfortunately, the latter two, Patrick Steptoe and Jean Purdy, were not eligible for consideration for the Nobel Prize as they had died, and they were not allowed to be awarded this amazing prize posthumously. But it is worth noting it's an incredible scientific achievement, and something that the world should be very grateful for. It's interesting, I met Robert G. Edwards. He was actually a professor at the University of Cambridge in the Department of Physiology, where I actually did Bachelor of Medical Science under the guidance of Professor Abigail Fowden. I did some research in fetal physiology, and I went to the clinic where the IVF procedure was first experimented and undertaken, and it was a great privilege to meet an extraordinary giant in the area of this scientific endeavour. I'd also like to note that there was some incredible IVF work that was undertaken here by Carl Wood, who has now passed on, but was known to my parents. He actually went through medical school with my father. And I'd also like to note the wonderful work undertaken by Professor Alan Trounston, who earlier this week I acknowledged in a speech in this chamber, who has actually been awarded an AO this year for his work in embryo research and fertilisation work and stem cell research more recently. I will note that Robert G. Edwards was awarded Daily Telegraph's list of 100 greatest living geniuses in 2007. Such was the remarkable feat of the work that he and his team undertook to help those who were having to deal with what is an incredibly difficult time. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, Australians deserve to experience the great joy of parenthood, and that's why the Morrison government is making significant investments in helping Australian couples start a family using IVF. And there's been a significant investment in funding, including in the Medical Research Future Fund grant of $4.6 million for the establishment of Your IVF website earlier this year. This website is incredibly important for helping individuals gain access to the Success Estimator tool. It also provides independent and impartial information for families. Madam Deputy Speaker, I commend the government for its work in this area. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.